Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed your spring break. I know it really wasn't probably what you were expecting for your spring break, or maybe it was what you were expecting. You're expecting to lay around and play video games and sleep. Maybe that's what you were expecting, but even if it wasn't what you were expecting, I hope you enjoyed it. I just wanted to take a few minutes to go over what we have read so far in Roll of Thunder. I know we've been working on it a long time, and if we would have stayed in school, we would have already finished it. It was my goal to be done by spring break, but that didn't really work out because we're not really having class together. So it's taking a lot longer to read it than what we would have been doing in class. So I wanted to do a quick refresher video, just because it's kind of a complex book. I don't know if you guys have noticed. There's a lot of characters and there's a lot of like different stories going on, but yet they all connect, and it's just a lot to process and remember. So before we continue, because I was grading your quizzes and I saw that some of you were confused about a few things, and I just wanted to make sure that we were just starting over, making sure everybody is on the same page. Sorry, my iPad is falling. Make sure that we were all on the same page and that you understood what was happening in the book before we continued. So that way we can get those grades up, because they're still struggling a little bit. So hopefully this will help. I took notes. So hopefully I will hit all the major points that have happened so far in the book, and that will help you kind of understand, especially if you've been struggling with the reading. I know a couple of you have reached out to me and you're just saying, I'm having trouble getting in, I'm having trouble keeping up, I'm not really sure what's going on. So here's my suggestion to you, and you don't have to take the suggestion, but if you would like to, there are people on YouTube that will read the story to you, kind of like an audiobook. So if you are having trouble reading it on your own, because like we've talked about, some of like the speech and stuff is kind of difficult. If you would find it easier to listen to someone, feel free to look those up and follow along as you're listening, and maybe that'll be helpful too. So I'm just going to go through this real fast, hit the major points of the book, and then hopefully that will help refresh your memory before we get started in this week. Okay, so you don't have to do any reading today. We're just refreshing, and then the activity that I posted below. Okay? All right, so at the very beginning of the book, we met the Logan family, specifically Cassie, Little Man, Christopher, John, and Stacy. And then Mama and Papa and Big Ma. We met all of them at the very beginning of the book. We also met TJ. TJ is their friend, kind of their friend. Mostly Stacy's friend. But he is also black. I know a couple of you were confused and were in your answers said that he was white. TJ is not. TJ is black. His family is very poor. Remember, they are the ones that are sharecroppers on the Granger land. So he is black and he is very poor, and he's very annoying. And he's kind of a know-it-all. He thinks that he should have all the information before everybody else. So the beginning of the book, they are at school and they saw the covers where it gave the conditions of the book and what students had that. And that really upset Cassie and Little Man. And so Mama ended up covering up that part of the book. And that was not taken well by the other teachers. But she did it anyway. And then after that, Papa brings Mr. Morrison home. And we kind of concluded that he brought him home to protect the family from the Night Riders. It wasn't said that outright, but that's what we decided was the real reason that he came, and not that just he needed a job. And after that, we met Jeremy Sims. Jeremy is the boy that walks to school with the Logan children, but he is white. Jeremy is white. He does not have to walk with them, but he's the one that refuses to ride the bus because the bus harasses the kids, and Jeremy doesn't want to be a part of that. So that leads us to the bus incident where they ended up digging the giant hole in the road and the bus crashed because it had been splashing them and everything. And then that led to the Night Riders coming, and the kids thought they were coming after them, but it turns out they were going after someone else. So then that just kind of leads them to being wary of the Night Riders, being a little more realistic in their minds and not just something that happens to other people. After that, TJ cheats on the test. Stacy gets blamed for it. And then Stacy follows him to the Wallace store and beats TJ up. So then at that point in the story, TJ and Stacy are not really friends at that point. Then we learn from Big Ma about the history of the land. We learned that it used to be owned by the Grangers. It used to be slave land, meaning there were slaves that lived on the land. And through selling, through reconstruction and everything, that ended up in the Logan's hands. And Mr. Granger is very, very upset about this and keeps trying to get the family to sell him back the land. But so far they have refused to do so. They own outright half of the land, meaning own outright means that they don't owe any money on half of the land, but on the other half of the land, they still have to pay the mortgage, meaning they still have to pay the bank the money to get that land then to be completely theirs. Sorry, I keep looking at my notes if you're wondering why I'm looking down. Mama punishes all the kids for going to the Wallace store by visiting the Berries, the man that had been burned by the Night Riders, just so they can kind of learn a lesson of, like, you do not mess with these people. The Wallaces are the ones that did the burnings. You don't mess with them. You don't go to their store. You don't go near them, okay, because this can happen. So that was kind of it wasn't really a punishment. It was more of a lesson. And then Big Ma takes Cassie and Stacy and TJ to Strawberry. While they are there, TJ is showing Stacy and Cassie this gun that he wants, this pearl handle gun. And he says that he would do anything to get that gun. And then kind of while they're waiting, Cassie gets impatient because other people are being waited on before them. And she goes up and kind of yells at the owner about it, and he kicks her out of the store. And then as she's sulking about that outside and being really angry about that, she bumps into Lillian Jean, who is Jeremy's sister. Remember, Jeremy is the one that walks with them to school. So Lillian Jean's white, Jeremy is white. She bumps into her, but she doesn't apologize in the correct way. She doesn't address her as Ms. Lillian Jean. Lillian Jean's dad gets involved and makes her apologize, and it becomes a whole situation where Cassie kind of realizes that just because she's black, that then she gets treated this way. So when they return, Uncle Hammer has come to visit. He has come with his new car, the Packard, which looks just like Harlan Granger's car, which is not something that a lot of black men would have been able to afford back then. So it's pretty high status for him, which is not taken well by some of the white people in town. He gives Stacy a new coat for Christmas, and Stacy's super excited about it, but then when he goes and shows TJ makes fun of him and calls him a preacher and cons Stacy out of the coat. He's like, well, why don't you just give it to me until it fits you? So Stacy ended up giving him the coat, and Hammer yells at Stacy and is like, if you're stupid enough to give that away, then you don't deserve it. So Stacy is now without the coat, and so now he and TJ are kind of at odds again of, like, he has done yet another thing to me. Even though I've offered him my friendship, he's taking advantage of me again. Still around Christmas time, Jeremy ends up bringing Stacy a gift, a flute, and it's kind of awkward because the Sims family, very well-known white family in town, very racist white family in town, is Jeremy's parents, Jeremy's dad, and Jeremy is the one bringing them a gift. And so Papa does not approve of this gift because he's telling Stacy, yeah, he might be a good friend now, but when you get older and he realizes that he's a white man and you're a black boy, it's not going to work out. So Papa didn't really approve of the gift. He says, you can be friends with him, but you need to watch your back. He doesn't trust he doesn't trust Jeremy at all. And then after that, Mr. Granger comes to visit the family. He starts threatening them about them sending other people to Vicksburg to go shopping instead of going to the Wallace store, because the Wallaces were the ones that bred the berries and they didn't want to support that. So Mr. Granger comes and threatens that they're not going to have any backing, which means they're not going to have someone to help support them financially, and that if this continues, then he will find ways to pay them back. He threatens to take their land. He threatens in a roundabout way to harm them. He doesn't come out and say it, but the language that he was using and the things that he was saying points to, he was basically saying, I'm going to do whatever it takes. So after that, Cassie pretends to befriend Lily and Jean. She wants to make right for what happened in Strawberry and starts carrying her books, and Lily and Jean is like, soaking it up. And so Lily and Jean starts telling Cassie all these secrets, all these things that she doesn't want anybody else to know. And Cassie has this plan all along, and she lures her into the woods one day, and she's like, here, I want to show you something. But really, she just wanted to beat her up. And so Cassie does. She beats her up. Lily and Jean is 4 years older than Cassie, which is really funny that a 9-year-old beat up a 13-year-old. But she beats her up, and then, Lily and Jean's like, well, I'm going to go tell my dad. And Cassie's like, well, I have all your secrets because you just told them all to me. So if you want to go tell me, that's great. I'll just tell everybody all your secrets. So Cassie kind of handled her own situation, and I don't think she's going to have a problem with Lily and Jean. I mean, she might, but probably not as big a problem as she had before. So after that is when Mama comes home and says that she has been fired for covering up the books, when in reality, it's not necessarily about the books. If you remember, Mr. Granger came and said that I'm going to make it so you can't afford your land. Well, now, Mama doesn't have a job. How are they going to afford the land? So they said it was about the books. It's not about the books. It's about the land. It's about people going and shopping in Vicksburg when the Grangers and the Wallaces want them to shop at the Wallace store. So TJ is the one that ultimately told on Mama. He did it out of anger. He didn't mean for Mama to get fired. He was just kind of venting. But when you vent to the wrong people, drastic things happen. So that is where we are at so far in the story. Starting on Wednesday, we will continue reading in chapter 9. But today I just want you to focus on any assignments that you haven't gotten done and working on the vocab sheet. You only need to do the definition section today. Make sure you save it as a Word doc before you turn it in. You only have to do definitions, okay? You don't have to do the whole thing. Don't freak out, okay? You only have to do definitions today. Just turn in once you get the definitions part, and then as we go on through the week, then we'll keep adding columns, okay? So have a great day. I will talk to you later. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. Even if you just want to say hey because you're bored, feel free to reach out. But yeah, I will talk to you guys later. See you later. Bye.